Okay, then I'm not seeing it on the screen. Oh, now we are. All right. All right, I think we're getting ready to start. Everybody good? All right, thank you. All right. Welcome to DDRC members, staff, and guests. Multiple staff members are present to make sure that the meeting runs smoothly and all applicants and citizens are able to communicate with the commission at the appropriate times.
Okay, I'll go ahead and call the roll. Mr. Broom?
Here.
Ms. Jaco?
Here.
Mr. Ledecker? Here. And Mr. McGuire?
Here.
We have a quorum.
In order to avoid ex parte communications, DDRC members are under strict instructions not to discuss cases under consideration with the public or with each other outside of the public forum. The meeting typically starts with staff calling the case, giving a summary of the project, and then calling on the applicant to present if they wish. Decisions are typically made in one evening. Decisions may be appealed within 30 days to a court of competent jurisdiction. Oaths will be administered individually as we hear either from applicants or from live speakers. Applicants with requests before the DDRC are allotted a presentation time of 10 minutes. This time should include, but is not limited to, an overview of the project, case history, and any pertinent meetings held regarding the request. This time also includes all persons presenting information on behalf of the applicant, such as attorneys, engineers, and architects. This time limit does not include any questions asked by the DDRC or staff regarding the request. Members of the general public are given the opportunity to address their concerns in intervals of 2 minutes. Applicants may have 5 minutes to respond. Staff has a timer and will make the presenters aware of when the time has expired. Are there any changes to the agenda?
No changes have been made since publication.
The DDRC uses the consent agenda to approve non-controversial or routine matters by a single motion and vote. If a member of the DDRC or the general public wants to discuss an item on the consent agenda, that item is removed from the agenda and considered during the meeting. The DDRC then approves the remaining consent agenda items. Will staff please read the consent agenda?
Certainly. The first case on consent is 1417 Maple Street. This is a request for a certificate of design approval for an addition in the Melrose Heights Oak Lawn Architectural Conservation District. The second case is 3112 Lakewood Avenue. This is a request for a certificate of design approval for an accessory structure in the Earlwood Protection Area, Area A. And the third case is 2415 Santee Avenue, request for preliminary certification for the Bailey Bill and for a certificate of design approval for an addition in the Old Shandon Lower Waverly Protection Area, Area A. And also the consent agenda includes the approval of the November minutes.
Is there anyone from the DDRC that would like any item removed from the consent agenda? No? Okay. Is there anyone from the public that would like an item removed from the consent agenda? Because once we approve the consent agenda, none of these cases will be discussed. I'll make that clear. All right, thank you. Are we advancing slowly? All right. All right, do I have a motion and a second to accept the consent agenda, which also includes the November minutes with all staff recommendations?
I'd like to make a motion to approve the consent agenda, Design Historic. 1417 Maple Street, 3112 Lakewood Avenue, 2415 Santee Avenue, and the approval of the November minutes.
Second?
Second?
All right.
You want a roll call? Okay. Mr. Broom?
Yes.
Ms. Jaco?
Yes?
Mr. Ledecker?
Yes.
Mr. McGuire?
Yes.
Motion passes.
Great, all right. Now we can move on to the regular agenda.
Sorry. The first case on the regular agenda is a 3.78 acre site within the Innovista Design District. encompassing 5 total parcels located at 408 and 436 Blossom Street, 519 UG Street, and 401 Wheat Street. The applicant is Bethany Rooney of Subtext. This proposal is for the new construction of a 233-unit, 4-story private dormitory. The existing site is currently a mix of vacant pavement and single-story commercial and industrial buildings. Overall, I just want to mention that the design is contextually sensitive, and staff has been working with the applicant to address most of the outstanding items. The applicant's been very responsive, and the full report is available to you for your reference, but for the sake of time, I'm going to focus primarily on providing a project overview and highlighting some of the outstanding comments. The proposed site is located within a principal gateway of the Innovista District, the Blossom Street Gateway, denoted here with a purple dashed line. At the intersection, it's located at the intersection of Blossom Street and Williams Street. Two frontages on the proposed site, which are two frontages on the proposed site. It's been identified in the master plan as ground floor activity zones. Sorry, I'm misreading this. These two frontages, Williams Street and Blossom Street, have been identified as ground floor activity zones, which require, actually per code, 60% of the ground floor to be commercial, public, civic, or institutional use. In July of this year, the applicant received a variance to that requirement from the City of Columbia Board of Zoning Appeals, reducing the required frontages to 26% on William Street and 51.8% on Blossom Street. The project is uniquely located on four significant streets within the Innovista District. Blossom Street is an east-west vehicular boulevard connecting the airport to downtown. UG Street is a significant north-south vehicular boulevard connecting downtown. William Street is currently a significant pedestrian corridor providing access to Founders Park, and it has been identified as a significant A-level avenue, which will serve as a principal pedestrian spine, providing access to the future waterfront park along the Congaree River. Least of the four, but still significant, is Wheat Street, which has been identified as a future primary east-west pedestrian connection to the waterfront. The ground floor of the proposed building is predominantly residential, including 4 private entrances with elevated stoops along Blossom and 7 along William Street. Storefront features, including high glazing percentages, are provided along UG at approximately 10%, Blossom 55%, and Williams at 19%. They're concentrated at the most prominent corners, Blossom and Williams, and Blossom and UG. There are 2 street-facing main entrances, one near the corner of Blossoms and Williams, which is shown here, facing Blossom, and another on the corner of Blossom and UG at a 45-degree angle facing the intersection. A less prominent shared entrance is located on the south facade, accessible from Wheat Street, which it's in the south side of the site plan here. There's an arrow pointing to it is where it's located. The proposed setbacks are as follows: 12-foot maximum setback on UG, 12 feet on Blossom Street, 12 feet maximum on William Street, and a 40-foot maximum setback on Wheat Street. The maximum setbacks allowable for the underlying zoning districts are 10 feet. However, the applicant has received a variance from this requirement, allowing a 40-foot setback on Wheat Street. This is to accommodate existing overhead transmission lines. Additionally, the applicant has received an administrative adjustment of 20% to the required 10-foot maximum setbacks, allowing for the proposed 12-foot setbacks. And this is in alignment with the Innovista design guidelines for ground floor residential use. These are typical sections demonstrating the programming within the proposed setback, including raised residential stoops with private entrances, site furnishings, 5-foot landscape buffer with street trees, and a sidewalk. The proposal includes a parking structure contained within the block, accommodating 368 spaces. The structure is accessible from both UG Street and Wheat Street, which is in alignment with the Innovista parking plan. The south facade of the garage is exposed, facing the adjacent parcel, which contains surface parking and a single-story structure. As such, this portion of the facade is visible from Wheat Street, as shown on the previous slide here. And, sorry, lost my place. Anyways, this portion of the facade is visible from Wheat Street because there's a single-story building just south of it. And because it's visible from Wheat Street, the parking structure should be compatible in quality, form, material, colors, textures with the structure being served. It's currently a concrete structure and does not reflect the rest of the building in the design. And that is in reference to Innovista Design Guidelines, section 1.2.7. The proposed development is situated on 3 street corners spanning the entire block of both Williams Street and Blossom Street. As mentioned, main entrances are provided at both prominent corners on Blossom Street, which would be Blossom and Williams, which you can see in the bottom there on the bottom right-hand side, and Blossom and UG on the bottom left of that elevation. The percentages of storefront are indicated in each elevation shown. And just to note that the applicant has made significant changes to the corner at the intersection of Blossom and Williams to provide ground floor access to the building and storefront and a pedestrian plaza there on the corner. And this is just showing the elevation on UG Street where there's 10% store frontage, and again, the Wheat Street with the shared entrance there. While this proposal does not directly conform to the storefront requirements of the Innovista District Guidelines, it does provide alternative means of pedestrian activity and engagement, including furnished pedestrian plazas, a public dog park, and stoops with private entrances addressing the sidewalk along 3 major frontages. As mentioned above, the applicant has received a variance for the ground floor activity zones required on Blossom from 60% to 51.8%, and on Williams from 60% to 26%, which has been met through a combination of interior and exterior uses, the exterior use being a public dog park. In section 9.3.2 and table 9.6 of the City of Columbia Engineering Regulations Manual, it calls for 6 to 12-foot pedestrian through zones for commercial downtown areas, and the Innovista Master Plan recommends 15-foot sidewalks along both UG and Blossom. Excuse me. The proposal provides the minimum 6-foot sidewalk along every frontage. The sidewalks along Williams Street, which is a major pedestrian corridor, and UG Street, which is a major north-south corridor, should be appropriately increased to 8 feet, overlapping the property line by 2 feet, which will better accommodate dog walking, street side conversations, bicycle access to the racks, walking side by side, etc., and can be done without impacting the building's footprint or overall character of the building's interface with the public realm. And I should mention, the applicant has already provided a preliminary site plan working through this comment to provide 8-foot sidewalks to the greatest extent possible without impacting. There's a proposed retaining wall or proposed seat wall in one of the pedestrian plazas and a stoop that may conflict, but otherwise they're working through that. In addition to the pedestrian through zone, section 9.3.2, table 9.6 of the City of Columbia Engineering Regulation Manuals calls for adjacent 4-foot to 8-foot furnishing zones for commercial downtown areas. While the proposal does not provide a continuous furnishing zone, it includes pedestrian plazas at the prominent corners of Blossom and Williams and Blossom and UG, equipped with movable furniture at each corner and seat walls at the corner of Blossom and Williams, as mentioned. Additionally, site furnishings, including benches, litters, and bike racks, are located adjacent to the sidewalk in select locations along both UG and Williams. A seating area is provided adjacent to the dog park along Wheat Street. However, it is separated from the public sidewalk by a low planting. As the public dog park has been utilized to satisfy the requirement of the ground floor activity zones, and as the described seating space serves the public dog park, a minor adjustment of removing the bisecting hedge and connecting the seating alcove to the sidewalk along William Street will provide greater access and clearly communicate that the space is for public use. And again, the applicant is already working through this change with staff since the comment. With regard to section 3.4, which focuses on wall articulation, one minor issue within the 2nd to the 4th bay from the west, fronting Blossom Street, the building penetrations step down to accommodate the grade. As it is proposed, the transition awkwardly interrupts the horizontal alignment of the doors and windows in the middle of the bay rather than transitioning at the next bay. If the alignment can be improved without impacting the interior grade transitions within the building, it would improve the horizontal articulation of this facade. Permanent awnings are proposed at the following locations: above the entrance at the corner of Blossom and UG. There's one, and then over 3 sets of storefront windows along Blossom, there are 3. Above the storefront windows, you know what, I'm not gonna read that. So this is an example of the awnings over on the north side of Blossom, and there's a total of 4, and 2 of them, there's 1 over the entrance, 1 over a pedestrian plaza, and 2 over vegetation. This is the entrance at the corner of Williams and Blossom, where there is the awning does not extend to above the doorway, and an example of the entrance on Wheat Street where there is no awning. And staff recommends that the awnings be adjusted to the applicant adjust awning placement to provide shelter at all shared entrances and promote optimal plant health, which on the north side of the building, these interfere with rain and sunlight for the proposed vegetation below. Lastly, the current proposal includes a 78-inch storm drain and associated at-grade maintenance structures to be installed along Blossom Street, which will be 15 to 20 feet under the proposed right-of-way improvements. This infrastructure improvement will include SCDOT's acquisition of an additional 5 feet of right-of-way along Blossom. The location of the maintenance structures is still being coordinated with SCDOT and will impact the right-of-way improvements along Blossom, and staff recommends the applicant work with staff to mitigate the impacts and uphold the intent of the proposed design. We received 3 letters of support from the following individuals: Representative Seth Rose, District 72, Hal Stevenson of Vista Property Owners, and Richard Strauss of Smoky Properties, LLC. Staff finds that the proposal substantially meets the Innovista Design District guidelines and recommends approval of the request conditional upon working through the following items with staff. Modify the exposed facade of the parking structure to ensure compatibility in quality, form, materials, color, and texture with the structure being served. Increase the sidewalks along UG Street and William Street from 6 feet to 8 feet to the greatest extent possible without impacting the proposed stoops or seat wall. Modify the seating alcove adjacent to the public dog park to better address the public realm. Adjust awning placement to provide shelter at all shared entrances and minimize potential adverse effects to the proposed landscape. Continue to work with staff on the placement of at-grade SCDOT stormwater service structures and other utilities within the right-of-way to mitigate negative impacts to the pedestrian realm, and all other details defer to staff.
Is the applicant present and wish to speak? Do we know? Hi, come on up. So I will swear you in first, if you could state your name.
Sure. Leighton Lord,
And do you swear to tell the truth during this proceeding?
I do.
All right, thank you.
Thank you for hearing us. I'm Leighton Lord. I'm counsel for the applicant Subtext. We're very excited to have this project for the DDRC today. Subtext is a national student housing developer that's planning to invest close to $100 million into one of the key gateways in the city of Columbia. Not only will this improve that gateway greatly, they're going to add public infrastructure such as making the area more pedestrian-friendly, road improvements, and as we talked about, a dog park. We want to thank Amber and staff for working hand-in-hand with our architects and our people. It's been a very collaborative process. And I'll mention also to the DDRC, we've met with the neighborhoods several times and incorporated their suggestions into this. So working with staff, working with the neighborhoods has gotten us to this point where I'm very happy to be able to tell you that we will meet the conditions of staff in their recommendation. We have no problem with those. And because of that, I don't have to talk that much, but what I do want to tell you is Bethany Rooney is here with the developer. We have two of our architects, Elo and Matthew Belts, could ask more questions, and they even brought samples, if you want to
Okay,
things and touch things. And also Tara Lyle with Davis and Floyd, our civil engineer, is here. So we're going to make them all available for any questions you all have or follow-up that staff has, and then I'll sit back down, unless you have questions for me.
that's great, yeah. So why don't, I can ask commissioners if anybody does have a question, that way we can understand maybe what resources needed. So I'll open it up. Are there any questions? All right, Commissioner Broom?
Can you give me the south elevation? From Wheat Street, isn't it?
Oh, here we go. There's Wheat Street on the bottom there.
The elevation before that,
Before it?
south elevation. This is one before there it is. The parking garage.
Yes.
Is that what you were referring to in your staff recommendations?
Yes.
All right. Knowing the parking garage requirements, you got to have over 50% free air. Is that going to meet that without jeopardizing the staff recommendations?
I believe so.
The 50% free area? Do you know?
You're referring to the circulation of air, like the
Yes,
requirements from a
yes.
mechanical
That
standpoint?
requires over the 50% free air in the parking garage.
I have to let our architect answer that question. Okay. Matthew?
And also, just to clarify, the actual structure of the parking garage is not an issue. There's no visible ramping. It's just the materials that are incongruous.
Sure, okay.
Yeah.
Hi, everyone.
Hey, please step up and state your name.
Matthew Belt with
And do you-
Dynamic Design.
Okay, and do you swear to tell the truth during this proceeding?
Yes.
Thank you. All right. Do you have any commentary on that?
The reason that, yes, we have to provide 40% linear and 20% open air for the parking garage. And because of those requirements, that's why that it's kind of stripped away and shown as that. So yes, it will meet those requirements.
Okay.
Okay, so with that in mind, is that going to be a problem with what the staff recommendations?
I don't think they would have to make any major changes to the actual design of, like, the structure. It's more that it's a concrete, it doesn't have a finish on it that's congruous with the building. So there could be additional maybe there's brick veneer or a decorative column in there or two that wouldn't impact the airflow, that could make it more congruous with the building.
Is that what you have in mind?
Correct, and we will work with the staff to refine the design and make sure it matches and meets the colors and textures of the surrounding building.
Okay. All right, one last question. On the interest for leasing on the corner, I noticed you cat-a-corner, I put it at an angle.
Correct.
There is no parking all along those streets. And where are they going to park in order to visit the leasing office?
They'll park in the parking garage and then walk through the parking garage into the leasing office.
They use that parking lot, the parking garage itself?
Yes, correct.
So you will have visitors allocated in the parking lot?
Correct, yes.
Okay.
So before you leave, let me check. Any other questions?
Yeah.
Yes, all right. Phil?
The signage is on the south side, right? I think there's a rendering. Yeah. So looking at what picture? So there's two signage points. Yep, south facing, right? It's west. So it's facing towards William Street, the river? Okay, all right, that was my concern. I think from the, one of the renderings appeared like it was facing towards USC's campus. That's not the case, it's facing,
And additionally, the signage is a separate permit process as well.
yeah, okay. I just wanted to make sure it was in line with the rest of Hugie Street, right? So a majority of those are facing towards the river. And at least one of these renderings, it appears to be facing like towards the USC.
Can you repeat what the concern is, that it's facing which?
Wrong direction in one of these renderings?
Yeah, I think he's concerned that there was one image, maybe it looked like it was facing a different direction.
Correct.
Maybe,
I can find the one and then
Sure.
share it, but yeah, it's not, if what you're saying is it's facing west, then I'm okay.
That one right
Okay.
there.
Any other questions of the team here? Commissioners, everybody good?
there it is.
Oh, did you find it?
That's- Yeah, that's what you're talking about there, right? On that,
It's one, maybe.
that
the
one
site
is, this is
plan.
the south facade here, so there is additional signage shown there. But again, the signage is part of an additional permit process.
Okay.
All right, Commissioner Lee Decker?
It looks like your biggest problems with the setback are on Blossom Street, and maybe this is just more for staff. What kind of structures is DOT need to install to achieve the drainage? Is that going to interfere with the sidewalk, or is it just going to be curb level drop inlets?
Well, that's still being worked out. It's a 78-inch water line, or sorry, stormwater line. So, and it is underneath the right-of-way on Blossom. Where was the last slide here? There it is. Yeah, so that it's 15 to 20 feet below ground. So we've talked about it and hope that it's not impacting the improvements. SCDOT did they are asking for an additional 5 feet of right-of-way for the maintenance of the structures. And those two arrows are pointing to at-grade structures that are preliminarily placed there as they work through the design with them. So there will be at-grade structures, and it will be 15 to 20 feet below the ground. So if it ever has to be ripped up, that would impact some pretty expensive infrastructure. But other than that, the impacts are those two structures.
So it's undecided whether or not DOT will even allow those structures to be built, or, I mean, you can't build a structure on top of a right-of-way, the drainage right-of-way?
Civil might be able to answer that, Mr. Commissioner, because as I understand it, SCDOT wants 5 feet that
Yeah.
Subtext will buy, and that's all they need, and we're not going to be building on that 5 feet, correct?
Gotcha.
But they usually take a wider right-of-way than the actual width of their
Right.
trench or whatever. So I'm just,
Sarah can probably answer that.
Yeah.
directly.
Sure.
We've been working with SCDOT to try to figure that out. So.
No, I can only imagine. Hi, come on up. State your name, please.
I'm Tara Lyle.
And do you swear to tell the truth during this proceeding?
Yes, I do.
All right, thank you. Any commentary on that?
Okay, so when this project began, DOT already had a project with the Blossom Street Bridge project that included storm drain improvements through this corridor. And they have a subconsultant, HDR, that is working through the design of the whole Blossom Street storm drain project with them. Through the development of this site, we became engaged with DOT and HDR as it appeared that for construction purposes and scheduling, this strip of storm drain on Blossom Street would need to be constructed ahead of time to serve and allow this site to develop, meaning this site's going to develop prior to when DOT would construct their line. Also, through this site, there is a storm drain that needed to be relocated. So this section along Blossom is kind of a joint effort between Subtext, the developer, and DOT. We aren't actually designing that system on Blossom Street. That will be an SCDOT design that is essentially incorporated with this development. The contractor for Subtext will install the system along this block. And relative to the sizing of it, the design is not final. It could possibly be reduced. Right now, we are representing the 78-inch maximum footprint, but it could potentially be a 72 or even a 60-inch footprint. As far as you mentioned, the depth is around 15 to 20 feet to serve connections of existing storm drain infrastructure. And the structures that Amber referenced along Blossom Street, they will have, it's called a ring and cover. It's like a manhole access that will be accessible from finished grade. And then, of course, those structures will extend below grade down to the pipes. We've been engaged with DOT multiple times with the developer as well. They're fully aware of the intent of this project as far as, like streetscape, sidewalks and things that would go along this corridor. We haven't been through the formal encroachment process, but again, it's been a continuous coordination and effort between DOT's design of their project, their storm drain project, and the development of this site.
it sounds like this is a major scheduling issue for when can you start construction? Is that correct?
Well, and that's there's some agreements between DOT and the developer that will take place in this whole process that gets into the details of that coordination.
So
And
if you want to start construction, you can build their stormwater drain for them?
I'm sorry?
If you wanted to start next year and they hadn't finished their project, you could do it for them? Is that what you're saying?
Right. This portion, yes.
I can speak to that.
Oh, hi, sure, come on up. I'm telling you, we're gonna have anybody else who's gonna come on up. Please state your name.
Bethany Rooney.
And do you swear to tell the truth during this proceeding?
I do.
All right, thank you.
Yes, so to your question, the construction schedule that SCDOT has does not align with ours. So we are.
And let me just say, just make sure y'all speak in the microphone so we can all hear. It is sometimes hard to hear.
Right, so the DOT schedule does not align with ours. So yes, we are going to be constructing this segment. There will be some temporary attachments as well as part of our construction, and then those will be removed when SCDOT comes in, and then they'll complete the construction, for whatever timeline works for them. But this segment, we will be bearing the burden of constructing that.
Okay, I have one other sort of question. All the ground level stoops, Blossom and Williams, those are going to have obviously street entrance, but the floor plans that you submitted, or the planning commission staff submitted to the planning commission, has detailed floor plans, and it looks like those units also have access from the hallway, the interior hallway?
Correct.
Okay, now is that kind of, seems to me like it's maybe a security issue, having so many entrances to the interior of the building?
Well, the doors are secure, and we do have properties like this all over the country where we do have the front entry access as well as the interior corridor access, and it hasn't proven to be an issue for us from a security standpoint. The building does have multiple, secured access points, and, the door to the unit would be no different. It would be a secure access point into the building.
Okay.
All right.
I have one more. So I believe there was zoning approval, correct? Zoning appeals? Or-
There was a variance that was approved by the Board of Zoning Appeals.
And that was for 4 or 5 stories?
That was a different one.
I guess we might have to get y'all, there was, I think, 2 variances, right, with Board of Zoning
Okay, sure.
Appeals?
So we had the setback variance, and then we had the activity zone variance. And when we initially started the process, we got a special exception for the density. But I don't believe we're exceeding that at this point.
Okay.
All right, we good? All right. Thank you, everybody. Was there anything you wanted to show us? Okay, are we good? All right, thank you very much. Very exciting. All right. Let's see if there's any comments from the public. Would anybody from the public like to speak? Okay. So I don't think we have any follow-up questions now, so I'm going to open it up for a motion. Team members, motion.
I will make a motion to approve the request for certificate of design approval for new construction at 408, 436 Blossom, 519 Hugie, and 401 Wheat Street for the Subtext project, tax map serial numbers 08910-03-01, 02A, 02B, 03, and 04. Certificate of design approval for new construction in Innovista Design District.
And if you would mind, please read all the staff recommendations.
Including each staff recommendation. I like number 1 the best. Modify the exposed facade of the parking structure to ensure compatibility and quality form, materials, colors, and textures with the structure being served. Increase the sidewalks along Williams and Hugie Streets from 6 to 8 feet to the greatest extent possible without impacting the proposed stoops or seat wall. Modify the seating alcove adjacent to the public dog park to better address the public realm. Adjust awning placement to provide shelter at all shared entrances and minimize potential adverse effects to the proposed landscape. Continue to work with staff on the placement of at-grade SCDOT stormwater service structures and other utilities within the right-of-way to mitigate negative impacts on the pedestrian realm. All other details to be deferred to staff.
Great. Do I have a second?
Second.
Mr. Broom,
Yes.
Ms. Jaco,
Yes?
Mr. Lee Decker,
Yes.
Mr. McGuire.
Yes.
And the motion passes.
All right, thank you. Thank you, everybody, for all that information. It was very helpful. All right, next case.
The next case is, hang tight, let me get my papers sorted. All right. This is 1001 Senate Street. This is a request for, to renovate in addition to the historic Columbia Central Fire Station on Senate Street. The new use for this is going to be a boutique hotel with a restaurant and a bar. The property is listed on the National Register and has the Bailey Bill. The new work will be evaluated per the Bailey Bill guidelines. The applicants will be also applying for state and federal tax credits. And Andrew Rogerson, the architect, is here to make a presentation. So I'm not going to read all of the staff comments that Amy diligently wrote up, and I wouldn't be able to talk to it as eloquently. So we'll just let Andrew do that presentation.
That sounds good. Does Andrew want to come on up? Come on down. All right.
Sure.
So, yeah, please state your name,
Andrew Rogerson.
and just make sure you're speaking into the microphone as
Sure.
best you can. And do you swear to tell the truth during this proceeding?
I do.
Thank you.
So as Lucinda said, this is 1001 Senate Street in the Vista. It's the old Columbia Fire Station that's being renovated into a boutique hotel. It's about 30,000 square feet of existing space that's mostly vacant. It underwent a shell renovation and a restaurant upfit about 5 years ago. It's where the Cow Thai restaurant was located, and has sat mostly vacant since then. And so we're excited to have a boutique hotel come into this spot. And we've looked at a few other clients have tried to make this happen, and finally Shepherd Hotel seems to be on track to pull it through. So we're really excited to see this coming. So it's mostly a historic renovation of the fire station, the service garage in the rear, and the training tower. We're also building about 20,000 square feet of additional space through a connector building and a small addition to the back side of the second floor of the fire station. And so through all of these renovations, we're totaling about 41,000 square feet and about 60 hotel rooms. There's also going to be an engaging lobby facing Senate Street, which will be the main entrance, lobby, restaurant, bar, and also some event space for the hotel. It's a very unique concept. If you're familiar with their location in Clemson, I think it's going to bring a lot of vitality to the Vista and bring a lot of excitement. So we're excited to be a part of it. But I guess I'll open it up to questions. If there's any more detail you're looking for in particular, I'm happy to answer more questions.
All right, thank you. I'll open it up to any commissioners have any questions?
Yeah, I have a question. You kept referring to fire station. That's actually the fire headquarters
That's right.
from day one. Now they're located on Laurel Street, and their training is out on Monticello Road somewhere. So I just want to get that clear. This is the very first headquarters to be built below the State House. And I think the very first fire station was on Sumter Street.
I believe that's right. This one's 1950, so I'm sure they had a location before that.
Right. Just want to get the terminology of fire station.
I appreciate
Really,
that.
fire headquarters.
Yes, sir.
Was that just a comment? Okay, all right, thank you. And
Yeah, I have a quick question. Sorry, I might have missed it. Are there any exterior changes to that main entrance?
No, the main entrance is going to stay largely intact. Part of that previous renovation was new overhead doors where the fire truck bays would have been. So we're leaving those in place, and all of the existing historic windows are intact and in great shape. So we're retaining all of those features.
What's interesting is the tower, the high tower.
It is, yeah.
I am so glad to see something being done. I get tired of graffiti or trying to mess it up. Let me ask you something. Is that going to be utilities with water and sewer? I mean, obviously you got a toilet in there.
That's right.
So all that's going to be inside, not outside.
Correct.
Okay.
Yep, the footprint of that tower is about 400 square feet. It's basically 20 by 20 box. And so each level is going to be its own room. And then when you get up to the top 4 floors, it's going to be sort of like a bridal suite where you have like a gathering space. And then the next floor, it'll be a room and a room above that. And then it'll have rooftop access. So that's going to be a prime spot to reuse that space.
Okay.
Where are the rest of the rooms?
The rest of the rooms are spread throughout the fire headquarters and the garage building. In the garage, we've got about 28 rooms. The connector piece, the new construction is 3 rooms, and then in the fire headquarters, we have 25 rooms.
Okay, just jump on in there. Philip and Bob are frisky today, so I don't know what to tell you. You're on your own.
This is the kind of project I love. The rehab, adaptive reuse of a National Register listed historic property. My only little question is, there's a little chimney that pokes up from the warehouse and garage, which I think is kind of a character defining feature of the property.
Absolutely.
And I don't know, I think I can see where it is on the floor plan, the first and second floor. It's adjacent to the elevator. Was there an incinerator? What was the purpose of that chimney there?
We think it was a boiler stack. There's a pit just below it. We're certainly maintaining that chimney component and the location in the plan. And then we're building our elevator right next to that. So we're kind of using that shaft space for an additional elevator. I think it was for a boiler and incinerator, like you said, for the building. Yeah.
Is that going to be visible then in the first and second floor? It looks like there's like an open doorway or a window or something in there.
I could try. Let's see.
Oh, I can't see that.
Actually don't see the floor plans in this set. But it is exposed, I think, on 2 sides. So you'll see it exposed in that lobby space just inside the elevator.
Okay, so if you're inside the building, you get the,
That's right.
See the
You'll get the
historic-
sense of it.
Okay.
That's right.
that's the other project.
All right, commissioners, any other questions?
Just one last one. The siding of the tower, to Bob's point, there is graffiti on it, right?
Right.
You're not adding additional siding or anything to cover, like, what's the plan?
So the tower, we are going to have to clean some of that graffiti off and some of its inappropriate content. So we're going to try to bring it back to its historic character. And some of those renderings do show, show the treatment there. And we're going to add landscaping and sort of plaza space around it. But the concrete's going to remain exposed, and we're just going to do a light cleaning to remove the graffiti.
Okay, perfect.
Are you going to, did I hear you say you're going to paint the fire tower?
No, we're going to leave the concrete exposed and
Exposed.
just clean only.
It's like the Wild West up here. You don't know where it's coming next. Okay, guys. Everybody's got the green button. I'm going to turn your buttons off. No, I'm just joking. Anybody else? It's an exciting project, obviously. You got a lot of excitement. Anybody else? All right, well, you high on the very cool factor. We thank you. That was
Absolutely.
nice.
Thank you.
Is there anybody from the public here that wanted to speak on this that we know of? I guess I'm talking to you over there. Okay, all right. I mean, I know that group. All right. And follow questions. All right, then I'm going to open it up to a motion.
I will make a motion.
All right.
Microphone on. I move for approval of the project at 1001 Senate Street, TMS number 08916-03-12, request for certificate of design approval for exterior changes and addition under the Bailey Bill, with the following conditions. The project meeting or exceeding the 20% investment threshold requirements for qualified rehab expenses. All work meeting the standards for work as outlined in section 17-2.5Y. All glass to be clear or very minimally tinted, and staff to approve all window trim details and glass before ordering and installation. Staff to approve brick and mortar details and color for the connector building prior to ordering and installation. Any proposed cleaning to be reviewed and approved by staff. Any changes to the scope of work to come before staff for review. All details, including signage, deferred to staff.
Thank you. Do I have a second?
Second.
Mr. Broom,
Yes.
Ms. Jaco,
Yes?
Mr. Lee Decker,
Yes.
Mr. McGuire.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Thank you. All right, we'll move over to other business. I see we have DDRC report for 2023.
Yes, so Obviously, we still have some data to add because it's not quite the end of 2023 yet, but I thought I'd just give y'all a little bit of information about what y'all have done so far this year. Starting with some numbers overall, and I did include today's, and just assuming that these were going to be approved today. So y'all heard 68 cases this year, but 54 of those were on consent. So there were 14 cases that y'all had to hear on the regular agenda. Of those, 64 were approved, which ends up being 94% of the cases that y'all heard were approved within the one meeting. And it's been a kind of a light year for urban design as far as what y'all have to see. A lot of stuff going on at staff level. But most of those projects were historic preservation this year. And then one of the interesting things I looked at for this year is where those cases were. Old Shannon, Lower Waverly is having a real surge of new construction right now. So I'm going to dig into it a little bit in the report because they've had a lot of projects that are new construction in that area. But most of the projects that go through you guys are Bailey Bill projects. So I'm in the report, which I'll be releasing at the start of January. We'll dig into some of the Bailey Bill projects. Y'all don't get to see them start to finish like we do. So I'll show y'all some of those projects that were completed because about 16 or so projects were finished this year. So they may have started a couple years ago, but they've finished up this year. We've had a lot of new construction this year too, as I mentioned, a lot of it in Old Shandon, but elsewhere as well. And then in urban design, I mean, y'all know most of what y'all see with the urban design cases are these large new construction projects. So that is pretty consistent. And then I'm with the report when we release it, we'll email it to everybody, and I'll bring a copy at next meeting. But I, want to show you, like I said, some of the projects start to finish. The standard was actually finished this year. It has been in progress since I started working for the city back in 2016. It actually went to DDRC, I think three times, but because the applicant, the designer was changing the design, I think it passed all three times, basically. But they finally, after 2016, in 2021, they got final approval from DDRC. The CDA was issued in 2021 in August. Permits were issued in September of that same year, and then the foundation of the building was completed in January 2022. So you can see here from February 2022 until July 2023, the building was going up, and Lucinda and some other planning staff made a fun video. You can see the building being built. Another project that was completed this year for preservation was the Whaley House. This one was approved by DDRC in 2022, and the project was completed in June 2023. This was a Bailey Bill project, and the overall investment in the building ended up being over $2 million. You can see very lovely building, but at one time the porch was enclosed. So one of the nicest aspects of this is that they were able to open up that porch again. And you can see the building how it was originally, really. So that's just a taste of what we'll have. I'll have some more statistics, some charts, and to show you kind of all the work that y'all have done over the year, and highlight some of the fun projects.
And I want to say thank you. I talked to Amy about this a few
Yes.
months ago, that I think it's really important that we need like an annual report so that people in the commission can see and understand how these projects happen. And also informational purposes for city leadership and
Yes.
other challenges we face. So thank you for doing that. I really do like that.
Yes.
Can't wait to see the completed document.
I'll get that to you soon.
See, it was a little Christmas present there right at the end. That was nice. All right, any other business? Motion to adjourn?
Happy holidays. I'd like to make a motion to adjourn this meeting.
All right, and I have a second?
Second.
All right, meeting is adjourned. Thank you, everybody. Well,
Thank you all, and as you go, we would also like to acknowledge that this is Philip's last meeting, so thank you for
Yes.
serving on the DDRC, and
You so
Yeah,
briefly.
Philip, thank you. Yeah, I do appreciate that, really do. Good luck in your future endeavors.
This year.
Right.
Yeah.
I wish I could have stayed longer.
Yeah, was it,
Yeah, new job, they have a requirement.
but you can't do anything
Serve on
civic?
any boards.
Really?
Yeah,
That's interesting.
it's company-wide, unfortunately.
Are you still with the same firm or a different firm?
Oh, souvenir.
Thank you.